My wealth advisor I think he manages like 20 billion and he's got like, 500 clients. And he said, I have the highest risk for appetite by far out of any of his clients. I see where the world's going and I like to get in front of those trends to capitalize as much as possible and be a very early adopter.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Money Mondays. We are sitting here at the Wild Jungle, parked outside. We just had an event out here, and one of our previous guests is going to be back on the episode today. Normally, we have all brand new guests, but sometimes, as you guys know, there's a couple key characters out there like the Gary Breckas of the world, Gary V, etc., that we want to get back on here multiple times, and this guest is in that exact category. I'm probably going to have him on here multiple times per year, so get used to hearing about Mr. Matt Morgan. Matt has built up multiple companies in the cannabis industry, cryptocurrency space, medical space, and everything between, doing hundreds of millions of dollars in sales. And when I first met him, he was giving me a tour of a 160,000 square foot facility in Las Vegas. Gosh, must be well over a decade ago now. So we're going to talk about 3 core categories: how to make money, how to invest money, how to give it away to charity. So without further ado, give a warm round of applause to Mr. Matt Morgan.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Dan, always a pleasure. When I got the invite to come out for this event, I didn't even hesitate. Jumped right in the plane and headed over.
So if you could, give everyone the quick 2-minute bio, and we'll get straight to the money.
All right, guys. Originally a farm boy from Montana, had big aspirations. Everyone thought I was full of crap. Became a serial entrepreneur after I dropped out of college in 10 days. Started in real estate. Really caught my wind in medical and recreational cannabis. Got involved in 2008. Had a great run from 2011 to 2018-ish. Built over $1 billion in cannabis companies. I've employed over 1,000 employees across multiple businesses. I kind of used the wealth I've collected in my exits and deployed it into many different verticals that don't relate whatsoever, so that I have a very diversified portfolio. And today I just live in Las Vegas and manage my portfolio of businesses and investments and kind of take each day one day at a time and enjoy my family and whatnot.
So on the make money side, you have so many options: cryptocurrency, cannabis, medical. So many different options of what you could be investing your money, time, and energy into. How do you decide what you want to put your name behind, what you want to put your money into?
So when I was a little bit younger, I'm 39 now. I'm becoming the old guy in the room. Let's say early 30s, when I started to accumulate a decent amount of wealth, I was definitely the shiny object guy. So I was so optimistic. I was like, oh, I could do that with this and I could do that with that. And I think in 2021, I fired into like 50, 60 investments. Oh my God. And I was so reckless money. Like I would throw,
$100K here.
I'd throw $250,000 or something, like whatever. It's like $10. Yeah. And I think I lost probably 80% of that. And so I was able, because what you have to understand is when you give someone money, if they're not a true, solid, ethical human being, whatever money you just gave them becomes their money. And they're going to fly private, and they're going to stay in the nicest suites and hotels, and they're going to have 4 girlfriends, and they're all going to have Cartier on. And I just saw so many things, right? So luckily I had some shining nights out of those investments. And so really I realized that, focus is key. So find things that you like, find things that you find mentally stimulating. I like things that are proprietary, that give you an edge in a vertical. I like things that are emerging, that are very, very new, where I see what the potential could be. I like things that are technology based because, although I'm born in 85 and grew up in the 90s, so we didn't even have cell phones, I see where the world's going, and I like to get in front of those trends to capitalize as much as possible and be a very early adopter.
So also on the make money side, why do you think a lot of people don't make money? Like what holds them back from, staying in their 9 to 5 or staying in their, by the way, there's nothing wrong with 9 to 5 if you like the industry you're in, but staying in their bubble and just like not going out there and expanding and trying to make more money.
So I think like you touched on a very important topic. 9 to 5ers are extremely important. And that's why 90% of people are that.
Runs our society.
Yeah, and that's how we're trained from a very early age. So when you start kindergarten in our public education system, or maybe you're lucky enough to go private, they don't teach you about taxes and doing profit and loss statements and balance sheets and how to even balance your checkbook. They don't really want you to know any of that stuff. They want to train you to be a doctor or an attorney or something, a teacher. Anything that just gets you on the hamster wheel and makes you run really fast for 40, 50, 60 years until you're like, all right, I get my golden Rolex, I retire, I've paid my taxes like a good little boy or girl, and now I get to die. So getting back to the question at hand, I think fear is the number one thing that keeps people at their 9 to 5. They cannot fathom the thought of that check not showing up every other Friday, whether it's they're single, married, with children. Maybe there's multiple people relying on that check, but you have 16 hours in a day, and I get it. Everyone's got 1,000 excuses, but the people that want to break out of that 9 to 5 jail cell, because let's be real, what's the percentage of people that love going to their job every day and doing what they do? I bet you it's less than 10%. It's just the fact of life. So if you didn't have to show up at that 9 to 5 every day, you probably wouldn't, right? So how do we break out of that? Well, you can continue working the 9 to 5 and get that income, keep it coming in so that you feel very stable and you feel like all your bills are paid and there's going to be food on the table and you can feed your children. Totally understand. I respect that. Definitely feed your children. But that other time, let's say you get off work at 5, maybe you can grind for 4 or 6 hours in the evening before you go to bed instead of watching Netflix or playing video games or whatever your forte is. Everyone has hobbies. Make your hobby making money and goal oriented to break out of the 9 to 5. So work on yourself and your project instead of your boss's dreams with your 9 to 5, because that's what's happening. And so you have all these extra hours. Everyone does, and I see how they spend them. Mm-hmm. Normally they're not productive, but it's all a choice, right? So you can either do like I did and just never really have a 9 to 5. I've tried it and I just got fired every time. But so there's 2 ways to do it. Just jump out of the airplane and build a parachute on the way down, or make sure you have multiple parachutes, and don't cut the cord with your 9 to 5 until your other job, which is your job working on you, whatever you do in the evening, that is sustainable to sustain yourself, potentially a wife, potentially children. So those are the ways to get out of it. But fear and lack of purpose and drive is the things that I see that keep people trapped in the 9 to 5, which I can't even imagine living that life. Like, I feel so bad for those people.
So on the investing side, why are people so scared to invest? Whether it's the stock market, cryptocurrency, where does that fear come from?
I think people work really hard for their money. I remember when I used to do 9 to 5s, I would calculate, my brain is very math driven. So I'd calculate how much money I made per second. And then I'd be like, all right, 45 seconds went by, I just made this much money. You know what I mean? It was such small amounts. But I'm like, God, I'm really exchanging time for money. What a horrible thing to think about, since we only live for so many seconds. And I think that people...
Is it fear again?
They work so hard for their money, it is fear, because they don't want to put it into something and it goes to zero. Be like, oh my God, I saved up this X amount of money for 12 months. I worked 12 months and I didn't buy the flat screen TV and I didn't buy the new F-150 pickup truck. And now I have this money, and it's also gives them a feeling of security to look at their bank account and know that they have 20,000 and they're 50,000, 100. That's a good feeling. I remember when I first started to accumulate money into an account, I'm like, oh my God, I can breathe, right? And so these people get that sense of security, and they don't want to fire that into something that is another unknown. They don't know if that's going to, give them 20% a year. They don't know if it's going to give them 5%. They don't know if it's going to 10x. They don't know if it's going to go to zero. That's the biggest fear. Right. Oh my God, it goes to zero. Now my safety blanket's gone. So again, it's fear, but just in a different way.
So I want to talk to you guys about something very important. When you start to accumulate some wealth, and you get 20 grand, then 50 grand, 100 grand, 200 grand, 300 grand, etc., over the course of time, that money sitting in your piggy bank, in your bank account, Wells Fargo, Chase, Bank of America, etc., is literally and physically losing value each year. And let me explain. This is not a theory. This is not politics. It's just math. Let's say you have $100,000 saved up. You are in a very small percentage of society. You've been able to accumulate $100,000 that you don't need for your overhead. Bam. It's huge. Now, this is 2024. In 2025, your 100,000 spends like 91,000, and then 83,000, and then 72,000, and then 65,000, etc. Because we're facing around 9% a year inflation. And there's no signs of that going away. And because of that, your 100,000 literally spends like 91, 82, 73, etc. over the course of time. Now, why does that matter to you? You want to go buy the Ford F-150 that Matt talked about. It was 50 grand. Now it's 54. Then it's 59. Then it's 63. Then it's 67, etc. You want to go buy milk or muffins or bread or gas. Those were all $2 things that are now $4, $5, and $6. And so when you're thinking about like, wow, I got 100K saved up, there are some very, very basic things you can do with that money that's super low risk, and you're not going to have any worries about it, but you have to do something to make something back. I'll give you a quick example. CDs right now with your bank, literally Wells Fargo, are offering 5.1%. That is insane.
It's crazy.
It's just your own bank account, basically. You're just shifting your bank account to your own bank account and getting 5.1%. At least you're fighting with inflation.
Yeah.
Right? Something.
You're offsetting a little
Something,
bit. Yeah.
right? Your 100 grand is making 5 grand a year. At least now your 105 spends like 96, not 100 spends like 91. And so I say that because just a couple years ago, a CD was 0.5%. 0.5%. And so it's insane that they're offering 5.1% in something that's backed by Wells Fargo, Bank of America, and Chase.
Well, it's actually backed by the Fed.
Exactly. FDIC insured. And so could something happen? Sure. Wells Fargo could go bankrupt. If that happens, you got way more stuff to worry about.
Yeah. If the Fed goes bust, your CD will be the least of your
Exactly.
worries. Ammunition becomes the currency.
Exactly. All right. So the point of that was at least invest something, even if it's in something really low risk, getting you some percentage back, because your money literally spends less and less year after year after year. All right, Matt. On the investing side, you've had these options,
yes.
And then you've taken charge. You've done it. You've done real estate, cryptocurrency, cannabis, medical, etc.
Yes.
When someone's considering what they want to invest into, how can they study, learn, decide? Like, how do they consume content? Like, what would you say to someone that wants to decide what they're going to invest into when they do have some money?
Well, what should they invest into?
No, just
how to decide.
Yeah.
So I think you need to become an expert into whatever you're going to invest into. And, when we were younger, we didn't have access to free information like we do today. Like, yeah. I mean, literally, if you want to be disciplined and sit on the internet all day, you can become an expert, a genius in anything, right? Just on YouTube alone. We didn't have that. Also, you can go find industry experts through networking and start asking them questions and becoming friends with them. But I think not knowing what you're investing in can be a recipe for disaster. And I wouldn't I've invested. So my wealth advisor I think he manages like 20 billion, and he's got 500 clients. And he said I have the highest risk for appetite by far out of any of his clients. Which I don't know. I just feel like I'm very confident in my decisions, and I'm always willing to bet on myself and my assessments of what I think the future is going to end up being. But if you're just dealing with 20,000 to invest, or 50 or 100, don't be investing in startup companies and these things that are like, if it hits, it's like a 20x. But if it doesn't hit, you're going to zero. Invest in things that are like more of a known commodity, like the S&P 500 index, right? Like that's returned 11% per year for like the last 100 years.
Yes.
And it's like clockwork. And these big, huge companies and hedge funds like BlackRock, they hire an army of analysts to do all the work for you. Like you literally just have to buy one index, and you basically know you're going to have 11% compounding year over year. So that's like almost a sure bet. If the S&P 500 collapses, again, it's not going to be that you're worried about. You're going to be trying to figure out how to eat.
Right.
So that's safe. Bonds are extremely safe. Anything that's CD attached with the bank is extremely safe. So you don't have to take huge risks. It's when you have a big pool of money because you've been living below your means and you've been investing in things that aren't crazy risk. Now you have a big pool of money. Now you start taking big risks. All right, I'm going to take 20% of my portfolio or 30 or whatever it is and go into these crazy investments. But if one hits, maybe I did a seed round investment in Uber, you're done, right? So now it becomes about managing your wealth portfolio and making sure you don't lose everything versus how do I get there?
So we've had a lot of friends come and go through money.
Yeah, it's actually like we should do a documentary about that because it's so crazy to watch.
It is wild to watch.
Yeah.
Some of them have had big exits or gotten big contracts or gotten big deals or mergers, partnerships, athletes, influencers, celebrities, musicians, everyone in between. We've watched it happen, sadly, over and over and over. What do you think the biggest reason is that a lot of people that make money end up going bankrupt?
So the things that I've kind of observed over time is people that weren't raised in a money type of family, they're not taught how to manage money, how to manage risk, how to handle large sums of money. So most of the people that I've seen that have made large sums of money that didn't have the proper training from their parents, basically they broke a generational curse with their family, and they leveled up big time. I think they see these big, huge numbers that they've made, whether it's 5 million or 10 million or 85 million or 130 million. They're like, all right, I just made it, and this is never running out. So now they have a full staff, they have an entourage, and money actually goes a lot faster than you think, and they're paying for these lavish trips, and they're paying for all of their friends, and they have 22 cars, and they have 6 houses, but then they don't realize the upkeep on all the houses. They don't realize that each dinner and lunch can cost $10, $20, $30, $40,000. They don't realize that they got to pay taxes on this stuff every single year. And it's the same thing with the pro athletes, right? Like our friends they're in different industries, but it's a similar sort of events. These kids that have no training in how to invest their wealth are just flying by the seat of their pants, and they don't put any away for a rainy day for 2 reasons. They think they're going to hit it big again, and they just don't think those big numbers are ever going to go away.
So I think that there's 3 main reasons why people that make a lot of money end up going broke or bankrupt. We've heard the famous statistic, 85% of NFL athletes go bankrupt within 5 years of leaving the league. That is terrible. I hate it. I think about it all the time.
It's painful.
It's frustrating because it's fixable and curable. Here's the 3 reasons I think that it happens. One is information. We grew up, they didn't teach us about money in high school or college or anywhere. We weren't even allowed to talk about it with our parents or our friends. It was rude to talk about it. So information was a big factor in why a lot of people don't know what to do with money, kind of like what Matt just mentioned. 2, their circle. It's very expensive overhead-wise. You hear the famous stories of like the MC Hammer, Allen Iverson, Evander Holyfield. These are legends that had $100, $200 million, $300 million and are living in apartments.
Zero.
Right? Wild.
Zero.
And mostly because of their overhead. They would roll 20 deep, 40 deep, 50 deep, 100 people in their entourage, and they're paying rents, mortgages. And you're like, oh, it's only $2,000 here, $5,000 here, $30,000 here, $10,000 here, $2,000 here. Times up by 30.
That shit adds up.
By 40.
Yeah.
By 50. For months and months and years, it adds up real quick. And third is they don't know how to say no. This can get really difficult. And sometimes we have to have a hard discussion when a friend or family member asks for money. They don't know how to say no. Friend or family member says, hey, invest into my thing. Here, give me $250,000. They don't know how to say no. That's a bad idea. No, you don't know how to run an operation. No, you don't have a business plan. No, you don't have financials. Like, they can't say no. And you think, oh, it's only $100K, $200K, Dan. You said that they lost $100 million. But $100K, $200K, 10, 20, 30 times, and a bunch of mortgages and rents and apartments and cars and 2K, 5K, 5, 10, 10, 10, and then buying presents for 100 people a year. It's only $300 a present, not times 100.
It's Louis Vuitton. It's $4K
right,
a present.
Right. Times it by 100.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, because you're rich, why did you buy? You can't buy them a $100 thing. It's gotta be $4,000.
That would hurt your ego and your image, right?
And so these 3 things are what I think about when people end up having these huge financial issues: is lack of information, which is frustrating for our society. That's why the Money Mondays podcast literally exists. The circle that's around them, and the ability to say no. All right, Matt. 3rd and final category: giving it away. Let's talk about charity. Why do you think it's important for humans themselves and for their family to consider doing more charity work?
So I grew up, very modestly, I would say, to put it nicely. And so I thought that, I would pin up posters of Lamborghini Countachs, and there's that famous picture with the house and the boat sitting out front with the helicopter and the cars. And I would tack these up on my wall with the thumbtacks. And so I just saw how many problems lack of money created in my ecosystem. And so I associate, I'm like, oh, well, if you're rich, it fixes everything, right? And it makes all your problems go away. And so when I started to make a lot of money, first and foremost, I wanted to flip the middle finger to everyone who doubted me. But as you get older and more mature, you start to feel sorry for people. And I started to live with guilt. I'm like, why do I have, like, these children, their parents can't afford to feed them, but why do I have 5 cars? Why do I have 200 pairs of shoes still in the boxes? You know what I mean? Like, the guilt starts to wear on you. And I think helping people that are less fortunate, because you're very fortunate for many circumstances, I think it really helps you feel a lot better about your situation.
Last question. I ask this very often, and I didn't get to ask you when we filmed together last time because it was way too hot in Miami. It was like 105 degrees. Every time I ask this question, I've never gotten the same answer, and I don't think I'm going to get the same answer today. If you were to have children, and you're going to live a lot longer than most people because you biohack everything.
We'll see.
So let's say it's 100 years from now, 120 years from now, you got bionic arms and bionic kidneys, and you've got all the peptides, and you live to 150 years old. But you have children. And let's say Matt Morgan has $1 billion. Maybe you'll have 2, 3, 4 billion. Let's just use $1 billion.
Okay.
What percentage of $1 billion does Matt Morgan leave to his 2 children?
So I would probably leave 10% of it, but there would be so many. I will create the craziest trusts
Stipulations.
and things attached to that trust, like they will have to achieve so many hurdles to get access to that money, because I've seen what just giving access to young people, what it does to the human being, and it turns them into monsters. So my kids, they really won't see a lot of money until they're probably late 30s, early 40s, and they're gonna have to show many achievements of why they deserve to have that money. And the other 90% will go to animals.
Animals?
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Is there any in particular animals?
I love all animals, to be honest with you. I don't know. It just pains me to see how some people treat animals. So my goal is to do, something similar to what you have. Over time, a complete animal rescue for wild and domestic animals.
You can build a house right there.
We might have to start buying up this whole valley.
No problem.
But no, you're already steps ahead of me of what my goal is as I get older.
So the concept here at the Wild Jungle, what Matt is referencing, it's Wild Jungle, WYLD. You guys can check it out on Instagram. It's obviously with our co-host, The Real Tarzan. We're averaging 200 million views a month for Wild Jungle to showcase animal preservation. And most of our 209 animals, I think 180 of them are rescues.
Amazing.
And the number's growing because they're having a lot of babies. And so we just had a lot of babies come out this last week in particular. But the concept of Wild Jungle is to help animals for that very reason, like Matt said. And so for you guys out there in your town, in your city, think about, you don't have to necessarily have money, but what if you could spend time or energy and help the local animal sanctuary? Or what if you could help with the adoptions? Maybe you can't adopt or you can't afford to adopt them. What if you could help promote a dog that needs adoption or a cat that needs adoption? Think about in your community.
Everyone has time, whether you have money or not. Maybe you have 200 friends on Facebook, maybe you have 100 followers on Instagram, but if everyone just posted that animals need to be adopted, the network effect of that is crazy, right? The other day I live in Las Vegas, and I have quite a few followers, but I posted that the Humane Society was overflowing with pets that just got abandoned, basically, or just people leave them at the front door. And so they were literally setting up temporary kennels to hold all these dogs, and a bunch of people ended up posting, but I think 500 or 600 pets got adopted in one day.
Whoa.
Yeah. So.
Wow.
And I think that the perspective is changing. Animals have so much emotional intelligence.
Sure. And
they don't deserve to be abandoned or locked up in cages. They have feelings, and there's so many videos and studies that show that. So I have parrots, and they're like my little kids. So I don't know. I'm a big animals are helpless to a certain extent. They need humans to ensure that they live a quality life. So I don't feel sorry for humans because they can do something about it. Animals, not so much. So I think they need all the help they can get.
All right, guys, check out the real Matthew Morgan. Check out Matthew Morgan across social media. Mostly Instagram, Matthew Morgan. You can check him out on Instagram, other platforms as well. Please visit us at themoneymondays.com. Liking, commenting, subscribing. All those things help a lot. As you notice, we fund this ourselves. We don't do ads. I'm not reading commercials to you guys. I'm not opposed to brand deals. I've just been avoiding it for the last year and a half because I want to keep a very clean cut podcast for you so you can listen through in under 40 minutes on your way to work or on your way during a workout. So make sure to check out Matt Morgan across social media. Visit us at themoneymondays.com, and we will see you guys next Monday.
Thanks, y'all. Appreciate it.